We're following breaking news out of Washington this morning. Congressman Cale Johnson, a Republican representative from Westfield, was killed earlier today in a fiery plane crash. Officials say the small aircraft went down shortly after takeoff, erupting in flames upon impact. Emergency crews rushed to the scene, but tragically, Johnson did not survive. Federal investigators are now on site to determine the cause of the crash. Colleagues on Capitol Hill are expressing shock and grief at the sudden loss.
The Bridge of Echoes. In a place of absolute silence, Cale stood solid and defiant. There was no ground, no sky, only an endless, sterile gray. He was not an echo, he was a man, his jaw tight with the arrogance of a lifetime.
"Where is this?"
he demanded, his voice swallowed by the void.
"Show yourself."
He clenched his fists, expecting a fight, an accuser, a judge, but only the oppressive emptiness answered. The grayness fractured. Shards of perfect, black glass erupted from the non-floor, surrounding him. They did not show his reflection, but the truth behind his eyes. A cruel sneer on his face as he betrayed a friend, the cold glint of ambition as he ruined a rival. He roared and swung at the nearest shard, but it did not break. Instead, 100 more erupted, each a monument to a moment of his cruelty, penning him in a cage of his own making. As his rage peaked, the shards dissolved into a storm of razor-edged dust. The particles swirled, not around him, but through him, slicing away at his certainty, his name, his memories. He felt his own form begin to fray, his edges blurring, as the solid man he was began to unspool. It was not pain, but a terrifying dissolution of self.
"Stop,"
he begged, no longer a command but a plea. His very identity was being flayed from his soul. He was no longer Cale. He was a hollow space, a vessel. Into that emptiness poured the echoes of others, not as a gentle mist, but as a flood. He felt the sharp terror of a woman he'd never met, the lingering hunger of a child from a land he'd exploited, the quiet despair of a man whose dreams he had crushed. He was no longer the cause. He was the consequence, a nexus of pain he had authored. After experiencing the lives he had broken, he was forced to see the one who broke them. An image of himself appeared before him. Not a boy, but the man at the height of his power, his face a mask of cold ambition. Cale saw the unbroken chain of choices, the 1,000 small cruelties that built an empire of sorrow. The realization was not a whisper, but a silent, soul-shattering scream. He finally saw the monster. It was him. The defiance was gone, burned away by the truth. An archway formed in the grayness, not of light, but of pure, silent darkness. It offered no peace, no end, only a passage. A primal terror seized him. Every instinct, every shred of the ego that had defined him for a lifetime screamed at him to flee. This was not oblivion, it was something worse. It was the complete erasure of I. He trembled, a ghost afraid of becoming nothing. He could stay here, a phantom haunted by his own monstrosity in an endless gray limbo. Or he could step through. The fear was a physical force, a wall of ice. But beneath it, a new feeling stirred, not acceptance, but necessity. The pain he had caused was a debt, and this was the only currency he had left. With a final, shuddering breath that wasn't a breath, he forced 1 foot forward. He stepped through. The darkness did not swallow him whole. Instead, it began to unmake him from the front, layer by layer. The face he presented to the world dissolved first, his features melting into the void. Then his chest, the heart that had pumped with such cold ambition, unraveled into nothing. He was dissolving from the front to the back, leaving the shell of his old self behind as he entered the absolute. The I was gone. The agony ceased. In its place was a quiet awareness. He was no longer a single point of view, but part of a vast, silent sea of consciousness. He felt the presence of countless others, not as individuals, but as a unified, timeless whole. There was no judgment here, no memory of sin, only the serene, interconnected hum of being. The drop had returned to the ocean. From the heart of that infinite ocean, a light began to grow, not a door or a star, but a warmth that bloomed from within the consciousness itself. It was a light of pure creation, of understanding without thought, of peace without end. It was not a reward for Kale was no more. It was simply what came after the self was shed. It was the beginning,